Good morning and welcome to Join the Dots. Now yesterday I spent a lot of time talking about medical fascism. It's a very uncomfortable subject. I totally understand that. I see that the viewing numbers are down. It could be YouTube, it could be the algos, I don't know. I am only interested in the truth for you. And sometimes, I'm sorry, it's inconvenient. What I want to do today is go on to financial fascism and government control fascism, because if we understand the foundations of what we're dealing with, in other words, what is driving this world at the moment, then we can start to plan for how to prepare for its consequences. We can't stop it, okay? We just can't stop it. We just have to accept that and deal with it. So I looked at financial fascism. Now, some of this will come back to medicine again, or it will come back to advertising. Because if we look at the advertising in the US, for example, the US government increased its advertising budget in media from 780 million in 2018 to 1.8 billion. 1.8 billion. Okay, so it doubled, more than doubled in 4 or 5 years. Why? Because the need for control is getting greater. Why? Because the problems are coming to the surface. Now, there's no greater person to tell you what is happening than Greg Mannarino. I promise you, I've listened to this man for probably the last 15 months. He's never been wrong, and he's always seen the big picture before it happens. Now, his site is called Hidden in Plain Sight on YouTube, or you can look up his name, Greg Mannarino, Mannorino. He's got a particular episode out yesterday, which I think you must watch. In fact, I say yesterday, it will be 2 days ago. And it was called The Collapse of Empires / Nations, a Great Suffering. This is key, because what you want from me is the truth, the foundations, therefore what's going to happen, therefore how do I prepare for it, therefore how do I come out of it better than or as well as I possibly could. That's our aim. Our aim is to come out of this. We can't stop it, okay? So some people think, oh, you know, we can. No, you cannot stop this. It's inevitable now. It's gone too far. Hence, as Greg says, the collapse of empires. The American empire, now funnily enough, I'm going to say the Chinese empire as well. They're both going to collapse simultaneously almost. And in fact, they feed upon each other. Because when you look at those two countries, if I just renew my phone here, you'll find that there are 42% of the world economy. Okay, in fact, 43.7. The US is 26.8% of the world's GDP. So you can hate Trump, you can like Trump, you can do what you want with Trump. They've got more than a quarter of the world's GDP. China has 16.9%. The difference, right? The difference is America has built this over 80 years, from 1945 onwards. Okay? China has built it in 20 years. And yet they're both now on very, very rocky foundations. But that's 42.7% of the world's GDP. It's almost half. The next country in the list is Germany. 4.2. Irrelevant, isn't it? 4.2 is irrelevant. So all this hype about Germany rearming and all these missiles they're going to build and all this money they're going to give to NATO and build a military machine. Their GDP is 4.2%. It's very easy to get completely blindsided by hype. And that is all part of the corporate fascism. Hype. Okay? Media advertising now is phenomenal. In the US, 10 to 12% of all advertising is by whom? Pharma. Big pharma. Yes. Only two countries allow advertising of prescription drugs on television. Do you know who they are? The US and New Zealand. And I have not seen two more fascist countries in terms of fascist as opposed to what the public perceive to be very open, general, nice economy. No, they're not. They're totally controlled. No worse than Jacinda Ardern through COVID in New Zealand. And I think their vaccination rate was the highest in the world, or one of the highest, about 98.7%. It was very, very high. Why? Total control. No other opinion. Total control. Everyone had to have it. They couldn't move without having it. That is authoritarian. That is fascism. That is not a free country. So you see these anomalies like New Zealand popping up, but you see it in America. 10 to 12% of all advertising is big pharma. Prescription drugs are advertised on TV. And do you know what? The FDA have made no comment. The FDA don't even get shown the adverts. The adverts are made by pharma and pushed onto the television with no oversight. The FDA do not even authorise these adverts. What world are we living in? We're living in the end of an empire. And at the end of an empire, everyone in the empire who's grown control and grown profits and grown businesses look to protect what they've got because they have to, because the pressure is starting to tell. I want to take you back again, fascism. I want to take you to the Epstein List. We all know about the Epstein List. So what's happened to it? Do you remember in the election? Do you remember, everyone? We're going to produce the Epstein List. We will release the Epstein List as soon as we're elected. We need a little bit more time to produce the list. The list is on my desk. There is no list. Those are the 4 stages. Look at Elon Musk's X site. Look at his Twitter. Look at his post on that subject. That's what he said. He put the 4 stages down. He's got 37 million views. Okay? Musk realises that the American empire is ending. And I said to you a minute ago about China. Now, the Chinese empire is only 20 years old. If you think about it, it only came into the WTO in 2001 or 2002. I think it's 2001. Okay? Only came in then. It's only a 20-year thing. But it's grown massively to the world's second biggest economy. 16.9% of the world's GDP. How do you control that? How do you control that growth in just 20 years? You don't. You massively overinvest, as they have, in property, in construction, in manufacturing. And you only do that by controlling the world, by underpricing the world. Okay, you gain control. But when you've got control, what do you need to do to protect it? You need fascism. You need no other opinion. You need total control. You cannot manage an economy that's grown in 20 years without total control. And what do we see in China? The Chinese Communist Party. No. No. It's a fascist party. It's total control, no other opinion. That financial fascism is working its way through the economy in all sorts of ways. And now the banks, and we all know about the banks, don't we? We know about what happened in 2008. We know the banks were allowed to build the economy up the debt up massively. Okay, and when they lost control of it, what do? Oh, we need rescue, we need bailing out. Who paid for it? Not the government. Please don't buy that silly story that the government bailed them out. You, the taxpayer, bailed them out. It's your money. The government has no money. Okay, it has no money. All it has is expenses and staff. Okay, and then it takes money in from the consumer and it gives it to those who need it. Banks. Just today, we're seeing that the Fed rate, the 10-year Fed rate is rising. We've had the big, beautiful bill. We expected the stock market, or some of us expected the stock market to really react. It hasn't. Yes, it's an all-time high, but it's marginal. But the 10-year rate is screaming a problem because everyone believes the Fed will cut this month. Everyone. Even Greg Manorino said it will cut this month, and I think he'll be right. But they're cutting into a crisis. They're not cutting into strength. And the 10-year rate is telling us that. So we will proceed on this journey of getting the truth, unravelling the fascism that controls the narrative. It's very easy for governments to control the narrative. We've seen it through everything. We've seen it through COVID. We've seen it. We're now seeing it in UK pubs Would you believe the government is now going to bring in a hate speech law, which means that you could be sitting in a pub with your mates, having a drink, you say something, someone else hears it, they don't like it or they don't agree with it, and they report you and you're in jail. This is fascism. This is not free speech. This is not the England I grew up in. This is not the world I grew up in. This is a desperate last effort to control everything the public say, do, think, before we go into a time of total crisis. And once again, please look at Greg's YouTube, The Collapse of Empires and Nations, a Great Suffering, because he is spot on, and I think he'll be spot on with that. Thank you very much.